What's up, guys? Matt, Legacy 4x4. We're working on a tie rod this time. That little piece of metal down there, that guy. Yeah, we're gonna go ahead and make that out of a DOM kit from Ruff stuff. Let's get to it. All right, here's the kit from Ruff stuff. It is 2 pieces of DOM, some hind joints, some misalignment spacers, some lock nuts, and the whole 9 yards. It's a really simple kit to do, very easy to work with. Not a lot to it. It's the same as building suspension links. Anywho, let's get to it and let's start talking through the progress and what we're going to do to upgrade this Dana 50 front axle. I know, Dana 50s are super rare, and I agree, I think they are super rare, but this is the front axle we have on my tube chassis Rock Lizard build, so that's what we're gonna work with. I bought this as a complete used chassis. Did not look like this when I bought it, obviously, but this is how it looks now, and this is the same axle I bought it with, so we're gonna run it. So, obviously, we have the stock tie rod connecting both knuckles together, and that's gonna get swapped out for a DOM piece. As you can see, I have no steering box right there, so we're actually not going to build the drag link today. We have a different kind of steering we're going to go with. We're going to go with a single indent ram full hydro setup. I will get into that later when we do the steering video, but for now we're going to do a quick build on this tie rod with this DOM link. As a side note, you can see where the tie rod ties into the knuckles. I am not running a high steer of any sorts. This is just stock position, and I'm not going to change that for now. Eventually, if I ever have to rebuild this axle or if I really damage this tie rod, I will take the knuckles off and I'll weld in some high steer arms. Like I said, I am running a single indent ram, going to go right around there in the middle, and that ram's going to act as the push and pull factor, and I'm not going to run a drag link. So all I need to do is build this tie rod. And to do that, I'm going to use a nice beefy DOM kit from Ruff Stuff. Well, that's not going to work. Let's get the cheater bars out. All right, I'll be here a while. I'm gonna go ahead and get this one off. This is so fun. Okay, so I may or may not had to plasma cut that castle nut off, spinning on the threads, but that's why you have plasma cutters. And it did well. Just went right through that, burned all that off, hit it with a hammer, came out. Let's keep going. Okay, little known tech tip, your tube chassis also acts as a nice welding table and jig. It's a double whammy twofer. It's perfect, it's perfectly straight. And you'll have to trust me on this because the tape measure will move. That this measures, let's see if I can get it, whoa, right at 58. So yeah, this measures at 58. I'm gonna bring it down to the knuckles to double check and verify, and then we're gonna move on to the tie rod. As you can see, right about 58. This is gonna be good. I'm gonna go for 58, right smack dab in the middle of the adjustability for those hind joints, and we're gonna call it a day. Okay, I already have my plasma cutter turned on, so I'm not even gonna bring the whole chop saw out here. It's a cheap chop saw anyways. I'm gonna show you my little trick on how I'm gonna cut this at a perfect angle and a perfect arc around this tube. I have here a 1.5" socket that fits snugly around the edge of this tube. So yep, all I'm gonna do is put that on at precisely the right amount of distance where I wanna walk my plasma torch around. As you can see, it's gonna follow that line perfectly. I'm gonna go ahead and grasp that right there, give a nice firm grip, and then spin my way around this tube, and we'll have a nice perfectly cut 1.5" section of 1.5", 1/4" DOM using the plasma torch. and walk it on over. As you can see, we're right at 58. I'm gonna go ahead and call that good. That's a lot of thread engagement in that link, so that's gonna be a very strong link. I'm very happy with that. Let's get to welding those bungs in. There's multiple schools of thought on to if you weld them with the heim joints already threaded in, or if you weld them empty. I'm gonna weld them threaded in. That's what I've always done, and haven't had any issues yet. So may work for you, may not work for you. Unclear at this point whether the forums or the gurus on Facebook are right, but that's the way I do it. So I'm gonna go ahead and send that. Okay, so I went ahead and put the lock nuts on as well. These are going to stay on from here on out. This is going to lock the adjustability down whenever it's found its home. That's how they work. This nut has the left-handed thread little arrow on it. That way I know and don't get frustrated when I'm just banging on this with a massive pipe wrench to get it to come loose. So good. So good for Ruff stuff for putting that arrow on their lock nuts, because I make that mistake a lot and it's very frustrating not knowing which one is which. But here are the last two steps for this tie rod. The knuckles have conical holes in them. The top side of the knuckle has a 3/4 inch ID and the bottom side has a 1/2 inch ID. These misalignment spacers, excuse me. These misalignment spacers allow for a 3/4 inch bolt through the whole thing. That being said, I need to go ahead and hog out those knuckles to make it 3/4 inch throughout the entire knuckle mount. And when I go to high steer, that's also going to help put a nice big fat bolt through the entire front of that, allowing for the high steer to have a 3/4 inch shear point at the very front. That is neither here nor there. That is in the future, and that is not right now. So yeah, let's go ahead and knock the rest of this out. Gonna go ahead and hog out those knuckles with a nice little drill, put the misalignment spacers back into these heim joints, and then throw the bolts through it. The bolts are grade 8, 3/4 inch. They're very thick, they're very sturdy, and they're gonna do the job great. So let's go ahead and knock those last two steps out. Okay, there's the brand new tie rod and the nice rusty outers right there. That's how it all looks. I'm gonna go ahead and tighten that down, and I think the next step is gonna be building a truss for this front axle. I think that has to get done eventually, especially considering we gotta mount that single-ended ram somewhere sturdy. So I think truss and single-ended ram is gonna come up next. But yeah, quick and easy video for the tie rod, guys. There it is. Eventually it will be higher. It will be mounted to high steer knuckles, just not right now. So I'm gonna go ahead and call that one good, and we can get working on the rest of the buggy.